Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something pretty focused. We're diving into this source material that lays out a really strict, kind of intense code of honor. It's specifically about personal boundaries, and the title makes it clear. The Code of Honor, Avoiding Married Women.
Yeah, it's direct.
Very direct. And the text we looked at, it presents these five brutal truths. The whole point isn't really about, being afraid of getting caught or anything external like that. It's framed entirely around internal stuff.
Yeah.
Self-respect, thinking about your legacy, and this idea that karma, well, it's inescapable.
Right. So our job today is basically to unpack that, to look at these brutal truths the source lays out and understand the reasoning behind why it argues this specific line. Getting involved with a married woman should absolutely never be crossed.
It paints it as like an act of self-destruction almost.
Exactly. It's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
The source doesn't see it as just a mistake, more like a fundamental failure of character with guaranteed negative outcomes. We need to explore those consequences, personal, spiritual, the whole deal.
Okay, let's get into it then. The source, like you said, doesn't waste any time. Brutal truth number one hits right at the core issue. Loyalty. It just states, flat out, a woman who cheats on her husband will cheat on you.
And what's interesting there is how it just dismisses any sort of romantic angle. The logic is, well, brutal, like the name says.
Right.
If she broke what the source sees as this major vow, before family, maybe God, society, then why would you, the new person, expect some kind of special loyalty?
Yeah. The text is really dismissive. It says, you're not special, just convenient. Ouch.
It really is. It's a stark character judgment right off the bat. If she could break that promise, the source argues, any commitment to you is built on shaky ground from the start. It's conditional.
And importantly, the warning isn't really about the husband finding out, is it? It's more about the internal damage to the guy involved.
Exactly. The source warns that you will catch feelings. It acknowledges that emotional connection happens, but that's actually framed as the danger zone. Because when those feelings get real, the source guarantees she'll wreck your peace and leave you emptier than before. It's predicting emotional ruin, basically. Guaranteed bankruptcy on the emotional front.
Wow. Okay, so that really sets the stage, and that connects directly to brutal truth number 4, doesn't it? It reinforces the same idea. The one who betrays her husband for you will destroy you next.
Yeah, it's seeing loyalty as this fundamental character trait. It's not something you turn on or off depending on the person.
So the source is saying if she lacks that foundational loyalty with her husband, she just lacks it, period.
That seems to be the argument. The man might think he's winning something, but the source frames him as just the next person in line for the betrayal. He's misunderstood the whole dynamic.
So synthesizing truth 1 and truth 4. The message is if the relationship starts with broken vows, it's doomed from the start. It doesn't matter who the new partner is.
Precisely. The foundation is compromised. The source presents it almost like a law of nature. The cycle will repeat, and the person who thought they were gaining an advantage will end up being the one hurt. It's built on borrowed time.
Okay, now here's where, for me, it took a really interesting turn. The source shifts gears pretty dramatically. It starts talking about unseen consequences beyond just social stuff or getting your heart broken.
Yeah.
This is brutal truth number 2. You'll invite curses you can't escape. That's intense language.
It is. It's a big leap, isn't it? From character analysis to, well, spiritual consequences. The source frames it as incurring some kind of spiritual debt.
Does it get specific about these curses? Is it talking literal magic, or is it more like extreme self-sabotage that just feels like a curse?
It uses pretty strong, almost literal language, like unseen wars that you're drawn into, but the effects it describes are very real world, which is key. It lists things like persistent setbacks in life, unexpected financial ruin, losing your inner peace completely. The idea is that your life just fundamentally stops working right if you cross this line.
So it's not just random bad luck. It's presented as a direct consequence. Something that might seem like a casual fling is described as a highway to destruction.
Exactly. It really elevates the stakes. The impact is framed as spiritual, yeah, but the results are tangible, material failures, chronic, unavoidable problems.
You mentioned something about irreversible depletion too, right?
Yes, that's a fascinating phrase. It suggests it's not a temporary setback you recover from. It's like a permanent leak in your well-being, your potential. The affair acts like this existential mortgage against your future, and the payments come due in really painful ways.
Which leads perfectly into the internal cost. This might be the most central point of the whole code. Brutal truth number 3. You disrespect yourself more than her husband.
This totally flips the script on the idea that the man involved is somehow winning.
Ha!
The source basically attacks the man's ego. It says pursuing this doesn't show strength or conquest, it shows weakness, a lack of discipline. It ultimately means you have zero honor.
So the argument is that by doing this, the man fails his own standards. He proves he can't control himself.
Exactly. The biggest loser isn't the husband, it's the man himself, in terms of his own self-worth and character. The source calls the behavior sloppy.
And it contrasts that with how real men supposedly operate with discipline, with restraint.
Right. Real power, in this view, isn't about taking whatever you want. It's about having the discipline not to take what's clearly marked as off limits. Crossing that line is like announcing your own lack of control, your own weakness.
You forfeit your own self-respect, essentially.
That's the idea. And according to the source, that internal judgment, that loss of honor, is permanent. It affects everything else.
How does it connect to legacy? You mentioned that earlier.
Well, if you operate with zero honor, what kind of legacy can you build? The source suggests this specific failure, this lack of discipline around a married woman, taints everything. Your goals, your future relationships, because you've shown you're fundamentally unreliable when tempted.
Okay, that sets up the final truth. This one ties the immediate action to those long-term, inescapable consequences. Brutal truth number 5. You can hide from the husband, but not the consequences.
Yeah, this is the cosmic payback part.
You can be sneaky, you can lie, you can get away with it in the short term, but the source is adamant. The seed you plant will grow. This is where the delayed fallout happens.
And it gets specific about where that seed might sprout years down the line. It might not be immediate payback.
Where does it say it might show up?
Could be in your own future marriage. Maybe your future partner mirrors the betrayal you participated in. Or, and this is pretty chilling, it suggests it could even manifest in your children's lives.
Wow. That really extends the consequence, doesn't it? From a personal choice to potentially impacting the next generation.
Definitely. It turns a single decision into something with potentially dynastic consequences. The warning is snark. Karma doesn't miss. Human accountability might fail, you might keep the secret, but the source insists cosmic justice has perfect accounting and a long memory.
And all of this brings us back around to the final warning in the text. It just restates the core rule. A married woman is off limits. Full stop. And crucially, it's not because you're scared of the husband.
Right. It's purely about self-respect and adhering to this internal code.
There's a social element mentioned, too, about the brotherhood and being watched.
Yeah, that line. You think you're slick. The streets are watching, and so is karma. It adds this layer of community accountability, at least within the world this source is describing. The final word is just absolute. If she's taken, leave her alone. Period.
So wrapping this up, what's the big picture here? This source defines honor in a very specific way. It's not about winning against another guy or getting away with something.
Not at all. It's all internal. It's about rigorous self-discipline, self-control, and sticking to a moral code, primarily to protect your own integrity and future.
And you mentioned the brotherhood aspect in that final warning. What does that imply about responsibility between men, according to this code?
That's a really interesting question it raises, isn't it? It seems to suggest that respecting these boundaries isn't just self-preservation, it's also about upholding a kind of mutual respect, protecting the idea of commitment and legacy within that community or brotherhood. By not crossing the line, you're reinforcing the value of those boundaries for everyone.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider, drawing on that idea of self-respect from Brutal Truth 3. If the price of this kind of convenience, this momentary win, is potentially spiritual ruin, financial disaster, and ultimately zero honor, is any short-term satisfaction worth that level of self-inflicted destruction that these truths describe? Something to think about as you define your own code, your own boundaries.